mate, I said, I don't mind looking after people, but I don't know, it's a bit funny, you know. And you're like, well, what do you mean? I said, no, he's all right. I don't know, he's just a little bit funny, you know. I said, I'd rather he come up and stay with you, if I'm honest with you, you know, because I've got the kids in the house and this, that, and the other. And then we left it at that. And then you rung up the next day, because the two lads that had drove us down there from up yours, they were staying there as well. And D'Lo had said to me, I said, Steve keeps ringing up. He's real nervous because of what happened to him last time. And D'Lo said, should we get him? And I said, yeah, all right. So, and you rung me up in the evening and goes, all right, mate, are you all ready to go tomorrow? I said, mate, I'm not. I said, I've got to get out of the house. I said, what's the matter? I said, I don't know what's wrong with D'Lo. I said, I'm having to get the kids out of the house. I said, he's throwing a hissy fit and this, that, and the other. And in the background, you can hear D'Lo shouting at these two lads, going, I don't care what it is. He's like, I want more, I want this. And I said, I'm not doing this show. And Steve's going, mate, what's going on? And I'm like, mate, I don't know. D'Lo's going mental. He doesn't want to do your show. He's like, I can't have this again.
I said, let me speak to him. And he's got, brother, I don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And whoever arranged this, there's not enough money for this for me. I'll give you some more. He
says, do you know what? And he says, do you know what the biggest thing is? And I'm not going to use. What? He says, you're just too damn gullible. If you could hear Bowles release over the phone, you could have.
Oh my God! it was in my old house when I lived in England, and I just was pouring with sweat, thinking, "Oh my God, I've just changed all the advertising to everything based around D'Lo Brown, and now he's not going to turn up again." Oh my God, disastrous! But that was a good one. Yeah, you definitely got me, definitely. Now, you there's a bit of a rib that goes on with you and. Your friendliness with a lot of the Americans that come over. It's a bit of a running gag, isn't it, amongst the boys, that you're very friendly with a lot of the Americans. Tell us about some of the Americans that you've met, who you've got on with, who you liked, who you didn't like.
This is a thing, because it was a lot of the thing, like the boys would be like, oh, Lynskey's kissing the American's arse and this, that, and the other. And it's never the case. I treat everyone exactly the same. So I'm the same with you as I'm the same with whoever, you know, if an American comes over. And I remember me and this goes back to a Morecambe show, actually. We was doing the British Breakout Tour, and Juventud Guerrero was over. And I've seen Hoovy recently, and I honestly think he doesn't remember me from back in those days, because obviously I've lost a lot of weight since then. And we was on this bus, and it was one of these tours that started off at Portsmouth, then goes up to Scotland, then comes back down to Ware, and then goes back up to Morecambe, and then ends up in Burnley or somewhere like that. So it's one of those tours. So we're all in this minibus together, and we're travelling from Ware, which it was subcontracted out to somebody else. So somebody else was paying money out, and they didn't have the money to pay the boys, and there was offers of whatever to the boys, you know, so they didn't have to be paid, and this, that, and the other, and there'd be promises of payment in the future, etc., etc. So a lot of deflated boys get on this minibus travelling up to Morecambe, and Hoovy's on there, and Chris Hamrick's on there, and I'm on the coach, Hayde Vanson, and like, so everyone's trying to get to sleep, and I'm like, I can survive on pretty little sleep. I'm always on the go, and I'm always trying to like be funny and this, that, and the other. And I had this empty Coke bottle, and this is just another little funny story. And I start tapping Hayde Vanson on the back of the head while he's trying to sleep. And he's laughing it off for a little bit, but then after about half an hour of me doing this, he starts to get a bit pissed off. So Hayde, literally, I hit him one too many times, and he turns around and puts his hands right around my throat. And I honestly thought, I'm going to get hit here, do you know what I mean? And he goes, will you stop doing that? You're really doing me anything like this. So anyway, okay, I'm sorry, Hayde, you know. And then Chris Hamrick's at the back of the bus, and he goes, hit Hoovy. It's like an idiot. I hit Hoovy over the head with a plastic bottle, wake him up, and then pisses him off. And then the next day we're doing this show, And Hoovy keeps having a go, and keeps having a go. And you were there, and you can deny this or whatever. I literally stood up in the changing room. I said, look, mate, if you've got a problem, I said, we can either go outside now and sort it out. I said, because I'm getting really peed off at you just keep having a go. I said, I've apologised 5 or 6 times now, and you're not accepting it. You're still having a go. I said, if you want to, we'll go outside now. We'll settle it like men, or we can just forget about it now. And then he did sit down. Nothing ever came of it.
He did stand up. He did stand up and get in your face.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is it never progressed from that.
No, he didn't. No, I was there. I was there for you anyway. He's only a little Mexican chap. I reckon I could have pinned him down.
It was only a while after I'm talking to Fit Finlay, and I goes, Dave, there must be someone in the business that's, he says, there's only ever been one man that's literally stood sort of toe to toe with me, and that was Juventud Guerrero, and I was like, oh my God.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe not then. Maybe he would have killed me then, possibly. I had visions of me, like, pinning him down and you kicking him in the bollocks or something like that.
Yeah, but apparently, no, it's quite tasty, is Hoovy.
Really? Oh, okay. We'd never give it a go. You've got to stick together, haven't you?
Of course. But yeah, no, I've just pretty much been the same with everybody over the years, and a lot of the boys will be like, again, it's like you say, there's a lot of jealousy in wrestling. Do you know what I mean? So, and I tend to get on with everybody as much as I can. So, but that stood me in good stead now because, like, 2 weeks ago, I'm promoting Hulk Hogan in the UK.
Awesome.
Do you know what I mean? So, I represent. I do bookings for Rey Mysterio. I did bookings for Alberto Del Rio. Do you know what I mean? And it's only because of word of mouth and trust and what I do is people will come to me and go, can you sort out my bookings? So, like, I've gone from, like, this, which, and I'm going to say it myself, maybe being a bit of a joke in the business to now being, like, where people are now coming to me. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah. There's been a couple of people I've met that I don't, Jake Roberts, obviously I had runs in with him, and there are people that I won't fall out with, but if I don't like them or there's no trust there, then I just won't deal with them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But I would say 95% of the people that I've worked with or I've come into contact with, I've pretty much got on with. But like when we broke into the business and we were watching like WWF at the time, so you guys that were on top there, like your Hacksaw Jim Duggans, your Ted DiBiase's, your Hulk Hogan's, I've worked with all of those guys. I've either represented them or got them bookings or looked after them. So it's like,
listen, I think it's awesome. I look at your Facebook and I think, what a laugh that guy must be having, travelling around on in a car with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Ted DiBiase, and I just think, God, I'd go too far as to say I'm jealous. I think what you're doing must be absolutely brilliant, to be honest with you.
And it is, and it's great, and it's like, we struggled so much to get into this business because we love it so much. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, we've been, we've been stiffed on money, and we've taken our crap and this, that, and the other, and it's like now it's sort of like, I mean, for me anyway, it's now sort of like the shoe's on the other foot now. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm going out there, I'm representing, I'm getting respect, and there probably still is the boys that are out, that are coming into the business now and going, oh, who the hell are you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and that bugs me because it's like, well, I've been in the job now 26 years. Do you know what I mean? I think I've earned a right to, and if people really, we'd love you to referee a show. Okay, well, here's my wages. Oh, well, I can get 4 guys for that. Oh, well, go take your 4 guys.
Exactly. Book somebody else. If you want me to do it, then there's my wage, and and I hate it when they say, well, would you do it for, well, no, I'll do it for what my wage. I used to have a wage that I charged everybody, and if they don't want to pay it, no problem, I'll stay at home and watch a film, So, yeah, I think it's brilliant what you're doing. So, obviously, after this, you met these Americans, and you started doing things. So, what exactly are you doing? When you say you're promoting them, obviously, now you're not a man of great wealth, unless you've become one since I last saw you. So, how is this working?
Well, pretty much, like, I mean, I work for well, I say work for, I'm independent, but I book all American talent for Showmasters Comic-Cons, the film and TV Comic-Cons in the UK, and they have like 30, 40 shows every year up and down the country and over in Northern Ireland. And they do their conventions, their Comic-Con conventions, and they have guys like Michael J. Fox from Back to the Future, and they have all your Game of Thrones stars and your Harry Potter stars and your Doctor Who stars, and they had wrestlers. And when I went to, again, funnily enough, it was D'Lo Brown. D'Lo Brown was in London doing one of these, and he invited me up there, and I went and met the guy, and D'Lo introduced me to him, and we got talking. And it took me a year to gain the trust of him, and I said, well, if you want, I can book you guys if you want wrestlers, you know what I mean? So then it just started me into contacting guys in the States and saying, would you want to come over to do these conventions? And it was a really good year. And now I'm into sort of like, 2.5 years of doing it. And it's like now it's just been given over to me now. So it's just like, right, here's the dates. Tell us who you want to bring over, and it's starting to be quite good for me. And now obviously I've got some of the guys over in the States now saying, would you mind sort of like taking care of our bookings? Because, we're sick of sort of like sometimes coming over to the UK and getting stiffed or being cancelled or not getting deposits and this, that and the other. And I'm saying, well, right, okay, well, let me take care of it for you. And sometimes it's not the hardest thing in the world. It's like, right, this is a guy's wage. This is where he needs to fly from. Please send a deposit. There you go. Bang. But promoters still seem to have problems with doing that. Not promoters, not all promoters. There are some real good promoters in the UK, but there is still a certain amount, and not necessarily in the UK, Europe as well. Rey Mysterio I had him coming over to the UK to do 2 evening withs, but he was meant to go to Paris and do a show in Paris the weekend before. So I got in touch with them and I said, look guys, I says, you're going to fly Ray into Paris. You're going to buy him a return flight. So we've got him in the UK. Why don't you do a return trip? And then we'll go halves on it, and then it'll save money for both promoters. Oh yeah, good idea. And I'm waiting. I'm saying, guys, have you sorted this flight out? I said, the promoter in the UK has got the money ready to send to you. Oh, yes, this is how much it is. Tell them to send the money. So the guy sent the money over to him. No, still no flight. Then I get a call from the Mexican office turning around and saying, no, these guys have sent a cheap economy flight for Rey Mysterio. He was told that it had to be, this amount of money and it had to be this particular flight. And they just...
He's very tall, isn't he? You need space.
Exactly. So, don't admit that. So, yeah, but it's just like, it's a simple thing. There's your instructions. These is what you need to do. If you don't want to do it, don't book the guy. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Don't wait. And Del Rio had the same problem in Switzerland or Germany. Same thing. Here is his price. This is the flight you need to do. And they waited. I mean, I know obviously Del Rio's back in the WWE now. I was with him a couple of weeks ago. I went to see him at Brighton. And he just said to me, he said, they told him. He said, but do you know what? I said, it's good for me because none of these bookings came through me. Every booking that's come through me has come off without a hitch. Everyone's paid what they're meant to pay. They've booked the flight they're meant to book. So the guys are happy. And then they go do it, maybe through their own agent or somebody else. And it seems to have cocked up. So in reality, it's a good thing for me because it just builds up the trust to do more stuff through me. So.
And who are some of the guys that have you've spent time with that have come over so far?
Rey Mysterio, Alberto Del Rio, Ted DiBiase, Road Warrior Animal, Sonny.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Again. I had people saying, "Oh no, you don't want to book Sonny," and da 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 da, and I've never had a problem with her. Shane Douglas, I've just brought over. I even brought Bill Apter over for a Comic-Con a couple of weeks ago, and of course 2 weeks ago I had Hulk Hogan.
Oh, that was amazing. And you spent a lot of time with him?
Yeah, well, I spent a few hours with him on the Friday night, and again I went up to Sheffield on the Saturday when he was doing the other show. I ended up providing them with a photographer and the things for that. So it's like, yeah.
How was that? Was it busy?
Yeah, it was. It was really busy. The Friday night, considering I was asked to sort something out, and within 4 hours, a mutual friend of ours arranged a venue.